This one might ruffle some feathers. Why are millennials so difficult to work with? By the end of this video, you're going to be ready to have working relationships with millennials that are low stress and high impact. We're going to unpack whether millennials actually are difficult to work with or not. We'll look at some best tactics for collaborating with millennials, and I'll give you some hot tips for tackling challenges with millennial team members when they happen. So let's talk about this question. Why are millennials so difficult to work with? I think if we're going to be fair, we have to start by assessing, are they difficult to work with? I would say this. In my experience, they are no more or less difficult to work with than any other person from any other generation. We've all got our problems, basically, every generation. And so I don't think it's so much about focusing on them as a particular problem, but coming to understand what really shapes their relationship with employment and what puts them in a situation that makes them more likely to be difficult. And also, what are the situations that reduce the friction and give you a clear pathway to their best work? The best way to do that is to understand millennials' relationship with employment. And at the heart of their relationship with employment is a sense of value exchange. They are going to give you their best performance with the least amount of friction when they know that the job they have is a viable pathway to the life that they want. And also that the resources they're going to get from their job and their job performance actually are going to allow them to navigate the challenges that are specific to their generation. For example, most millennials in America right now are struggling to be able to buy a home. There are a lot of reasons for this, and it goes all the way back to the 2008 global financial crisis. That really slowed down the major life milestones that most 22 to 30-year-olds experience for the millennial generation. There weren't jobs, and the jobs that there were didn't pay well, and so they needed help, and they often relied on their parents. And they didn't start hitting their stride in sort of the post-college independence that a lot of young adults get until they were later in their 20s or in their early 30s. Since then, they have worked their butts off to cover up that ground, right? And now they're maybe in their mid-30s to mid-40s, and they're having families, and they need to buy homes. They're looking at, okay, a 30-year mortgage, if I'm in my early 40s now, that's not paid off until my early 70s. That's the frame of reference that we're in that drives millennials to be very direct and very clear about what they need from employment and how quickly they need it. What their employment journey has taught them over the past 20 years is that time equals money. And if they are not in an environment that can move them closer to a safer, more secure future, regularly at a meaningful pace and rate, they can't afford to stay in that environment. But just as that value exchange of employment can often be the reason why millennials are more difficult, it also can be the reason why they're more productive, smoother, and more successful and more enjoyable to be around. Because when they are getting what they need from the job they have, they are some of the most dedicated, exceptional, astonishing professionals you'll ever have the privilege to be around and benefit from. But they're not going to play along if they're giving more than they're getting, because they just don't have the time. Also, as a generation, they're much more comfortable saying that than baby boomers and Gen Xers were, right? They're much more comfortable saying, this is not valuable to me. I need to be in a situation that's valuable to me because I don't live to work. I work to live. Because time equals money for them, if you want to have a less difficult relationship with a millennial, the solution is very simple. Help them move faster. When they come to you and they say, I need a raise because I can't save the down payment for a house, rather than responding how a Gen Xer would typically respond, and I'm a Gen Xer so I can say this, a Gen Xer would typically say, you can have more money when you've earned it. Your pay is a reflection of your performance and your value, not of your needs. The thing though is that most of them know they can make more or significantly more money if they go to a different employer. Now, most people don't want to leave their employer if they don't have to. So they want to stay, and they'll take a lower raise than they can get if they went somewhere else, as long as that raise that they get happens when they need it and at an amount that's going to be meaningful to them. Where Gen Xers would respond based upon how things were for us when we were coming up, the best thing we can do as leaders of older generations when we're working with millennials is respond in ways that will be meaningful to them while they're coming up. Also, there's going to be times when they need to move on, either because you're just not getting what you need from them, or because they're not getting what they need from your organization. When that situation arises, the best way to relieve the difficulty is help them move on. Don't try to hold on to them if they're not getting what they need or you're not getting what you need. Because what it'll do is it'll just drag down their performance, and you're going to be paying the full price of that diminished performance. Plus for all of the operational cost of the drag that it has on your results for the weeks or months that happen between the time that they realize they can't get what they want from the job they have and the day they actually leave to go to a job that can give it to them. So if they need to move on, help them. It's to their benefit and it's to yours. Now, if you're wondering about why millennials might be difficult to work with, you might be wondering the same thing about Gen Z. And so if you want to know why Gen Zers are saying no to management, you can click the link in the description of this video. It's going to take you to my video discussing why Gen Zers are saying no to management and what we can do about it. Not only to get great results from Gen Z's work, but also to give them a really satisfying employee experience. I'll see you there.